Hello, I'm Jason Harrelson, and I am going to be answering some questions from the website. The first question is from Jim Papa. Jason, what would happen if a trumpet lead pipe was rifled like a gun or a vortex beer bottle? Would it make the air spin better, faster, or different in any helpful way to trumpet playing? Thanks, Jim. Well, Jim, I've contemplated this question for many years, studying everything from gunsmithing to airflow and pneumatics and hydraulics. I've really wondered that same question. If you were to rifle the inside of the mouthpiece or the lead pipe or any part of the bell or the entire horn, what would happen? A lot of people believe that when you play a high note on the trumpet, that when you use a lot of force, the air is going to be coming out really fast. So in other words, if I were to just pick up a horn and play a high note, they would expect that air is going to be coming out here pretty rapidly. And I asked people who've told me that, or I guess put that idea forward, why they think that and what they think would happen with a low note. And most people will tell me that on a low note, then the air would come out slow. Well, I had a trumpet teacher in high school, Gary Tangy, who actually did this for me because he was a smoker and he could take a huge puff on a cigarette and then he would demonstrate what happens. Well, when he would play a low note, if he played it really, really loud, then a lot of smoke would come out, but it would just kind of trail out. So air was coming out, obviously, the smoke was coming out. When he'd play a high note, it didn't matter how loud he played it, he'd be done playing the high note before the smoke ever came out. So the reason I'm talking about that is because your question really deals with airflow. And airflow, I guess, is where the air goes and how fast it goes and what obstructs it and what allows it to continue on its path. If you were to spin the air like you would on a rifle, and for those of you who don't know what rifling is, inside the barrel of a rifle, like a long gun, not a pistol, they actually take a special tool and they spiral it as they run it down the length of the tube of the barrel. And when they do that, it's a very slow spin, okay? But when they do that, it creates like a little etch. So there's almost like a little trough, usually two of them, one on each side or sometimes three. And it's a trough that the bullet will follow. So when you fire the weapon, the bullet then starts to spin. The reason they do that is because a spinning bullet will travel more straight over a long distance. And the theory is, of course, it's cutting its way through the air and the spiral keeps it on a straight path. Well, in terms of airflow, I'm not sure there's any reason that that would actually help in terms of getting the air through your horn any better or faster. But my first illustration maybe demonstrates that it doesn't really matter. Because if you were to play a really high note or a really low note, either way, the airflow in the trumpet isn't such that you're actually putting a lot of air through a small space. The venturi is the smallest part of the trumpet. The throat of the mouthpiece is the smallest part of the overall instrument, except for your lips. So the aperture at your lips is probably the smallest part of the entire instrument when you're playing high. And what I'm getting at there is, because it's the smallest part, then everything after it is a little bigger and bigger and bigger. The air has more space to fill, and then it doesn't really have any resistance because there's so much space. So the rifling may or may not help anything in the trumpet, except maybe right at the throat of the mouthpiece, or maybe the venturi. And I don't know because I haven't tried this, but I think what it would do is by putting a throat and a mouthpiece that has a slight spin to it, or rifling, or even fluted designs, I think that what it would overall do is just help you with consistency. Because the air would then travel, I guess, at a more consistent pattern, and it may actually create like a vacuum effect in terms of it pulls itself along. So I think there could be a very slight advantage in consistency. Or in other words, as you're playing different notes, higher and lower, it may just be more natural to feel what the horn is doing. So again, to recap, if I play a really low note loud, or a really high note loud, doesn't matter what I play, the air really is not going to be flying out the horn like you'd expect. And I've done many experiments myself to show that that doesn't happen. So we're not talking about a situation where the air really needs help getting through the horn. There's no problem with the air getting through the horn. We can take a full breath of air and blow it through the horn. That was a full breath. And that's my kind of standard mouthpiece. My regular mouthpiece that I use all the time, it's got a bigger throat. Here's a full breath. And I've got 6-liter lungs. That was a full breath of air. And that could almost make me want to faint. So there really isn't enough resistance in a trumpet, I believe, for the rifling to help the air along in any way that's going to be advantageous to us, other than maybe a little bit of consistency. I know that I will have the answer for you sometime soon, and I'll do another video when I have this finished, but I am working on a mouthpiece throat and backbore that is rifled. It's actually available for pre-order. I don't recommend ordering it yet because I'm so far behind on mouthpieces. But you know, if you really want to know what happens, you'll be able to order one probably in about 6 months, and then you can try it for yourself.